All right, we are back. We've got Chi-Town Lowdown. We are going to go over the draft today, what we're expecting the Bears to do, what they could do well, what they could do to screw it up. Holy fuck.
All right, Wargo's going to die of throat congestion there. Yes, happy to be back. It's been a very long break, but obviously we are at the eve of the draft, and we're all very excited to see what's going to happen here for the Bears. And we wanted to kind of jump on and share our thoughts on what we're thinking, what we're maybe hoping for, and look at some potential scenarios that could play out tomorrow, as well as kind of touch on the things that we hope will happen, right? So I think the first thing we wanted to touch on was just positional need for the Bears. And I want to open this up for discussion, but just based on a lot of the mocks that I've been doing through the PFF simulator, shout out PFF mock draft simulator. I've really given it a run for its money. Probably upwards of 100 plus mock drafts at this point for me. It's one of my favorite things to do. But according to the PFF simulator, after the kind of mid-off-season free agency pickups and trades, the three biggest needs for the Bears right now are going to be defensive line, running back, and safety. I'd be interested to hear if you guys kind of agree with that, or if there are positions or position groups that you maybe think need to be addressed outside of those. What do you guys think?
Jets, what do you think?
Wargo, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So we're talking specifically about the positions that we want to draft, correct? Not that we would like to see as a part of a free agency signing, because we're still in free agency. But
yeah. I mean, it just in terms of what we've got right now after kind of the free agency moves that the Bears did make, which
I don't think
they had a very active free agency period up till this point. But there are probably a few things that few holes to be filled.
I don't think free agency is going to be a thing for the Bears. We've spent most of that money. But
yeah, I don't know where the cap's at right now. I'm kind of oblivious to what's going on.
All the big free agent signings we're done. We're done with those. There's going to be a million here, a million there.
Tom's saying that so matter-of-factly. It's just we will not sign another guy.
We're not going to go. We're not going
to just based purely on vibes.
A big edge rusher. I just.
We already spent $48 million on an edge rusher, so that's probably
not right. I don't see that happening. I think the next moves will be out of the draft, and we'll sling a couple million here and there to fill some backup roles maybe, but I don't know.
So what of maybe the positions that I listed, or maybe something other than that, specifically position wise, what are you maybe most hoping for, or what do you want to see in the draft?
Best player available is always a great option at 10. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, if some quarterbacks go, a couple quarterbacks go in the first couple rounds that weren't expected to, some players could drop down. There's always that option, best player available. If that doesn't happen, if we don't get an Ashton Genty, Tyler Ward, I'd love to see.
Tyler Ward. Mm-hmm.
If we don't get one of those guys, I'd love to just get another O-line guy.
So that's a good point. In terms of what's being listed currently as the most important positional needs via PFF are, like I said, D-line, running back, safety. But obviously, offensive line has been a major problem. On the surface, at face value, it looks like they've addressed a lot of those needs via free agency thus far. But I think that's definitely a place where depth is not going to hurt. It seems like Joe Thuney he's going to be hopefully a huge improvement. I call it what Wargo's got. He's going to be a huge improvement for us. but it seems like he could be more of like a short-term rental type guy. I don't think that they've extended him beyond the contract he'd already received from the Chiefs. So I think he could possibly hit free agency after this year. I'm not 100% certain on that.
Right.
But, looking at maybe a guy who can sit behind him for a year and learn.
Or compete with Braxton Jones. That's not always shirt up on that side. Everybody else is pretty much, I think, a shoe-in. But any competition helps. There's not, I'm not no expert, but they're saying defensive line, defensive edge, running backs are plentiful in this draft. Whereas I think people are kind of getting onto the O-line train. Like, we need offensive linemen, and there's not as many high-value offensive linemen. So I wouldn't mind taking an offensive lineman in our first pick here.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, it's what we have versus what this draft has to offer us, where we've put ourselves in a position through the acquisitions we made within free agency where we can somewhat go best player available. So you're talking about adding an offensive lineman to, get coached up by Joe Thuney and everything. Like, I agree that'd be a great thing, but I like that more in a later round, obviously, than spending an early one for bolstering an offensive line. Those early picks, I think.
And that's what I did say. If the best player available is not there,
so you two are kind of in agreement in terms of best available player, given kind of what's been addressed in free agency already. Jesse, any thoughts?
I mean, I feel like with Ben Johnson coming in as the head coach, I'm guessing one of his conditions was to have some say in who the Bears are going to take a good look at in this upcoming draft. I also think he probably feels like we're in a win now mentality. He doesn't feel like we're in a rebuild or anything. And we've already addressed the most glaring weakness from last season by bringing in some guys on the offensive line. So I think he's going to want to get a running back for sure. Coming from Detroit, they obviously had the Thunder and Lightning with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. So with who we have in there right now, DeAndre Swift.
We've got spring showers currently. We're looking for Thunder and Lightning. We've got brisk wind is what I would call Swift.
Exactly.
Roshan's not Thunder.
Well,
Roshan is hurt always.
Roshan is the lower his head and go straight helmet to helmet with everybody.
Yeah, just not a lot of not super dynamic. One quick thing that I would add in terms of the current topic that we're on here before we get into maybe some of the draft scenarios, it's just based on my mocks. Again, there have been many, and they've kind of changed since the simulator originally came out, because I've been doing these basically from the second I can get my hands on it. And obviously now the needs have changed for the team throughout free agency and up until this point in the offseason. One thing that I've noticed in recent mocks is, with the way the simulator sees it, and this could be very different than how it plays out tomorrow, right? But the way the simulator sees it is I'm seeing Genty not falling as often via the mocks. It seems like he's being taken more frequently in the top 5, top 6, falling to Jaguars, falling to Raiders, somewhere in that range. Warren is falling a bit more as a result of that. And some other players maybe kind of improving their stock. It seems like some of the edge rushers, 2 guys from Georgia, Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, are kind of moving their way up the board. One position group that I'm noticing is kind of falling at that 10 range now are the 2 best corners in the draft, being Jahdae Barron out of Texas and Will Johnson from Michigan. And one of the things that it's just ingrained in the back of my eyelids when I close my eyes to go to sleep at night is Tyreek Stevens' stupid ass, right? I don't want to see him anymore. And if I do see him, I want it to be in a limited capacity. So the idea of like, we're talking about who's going to be the best player available, right?
Like wheelchair limited capacity? What are we talking about?
I want to see him on the field less, right?
Okay.
And the thing is, had the Washington game not occurred last year, and what
We would have won the Super Bowl.
transpired, no, that's not what I mean. But I like Tyree Stevenson than the player that he is. I think he has potential to be like a good kind of depth piece and guy who can come in and play well. But just going off the mocks that I've done, if a guy like Barron or Will Johnson is there at 10, and some of the other guys that maybe we're not in love with, or that we maybe had our hopes set on, are already gone, I'd be interested to see them doubling up and putting another true lockdown on the other side of Jalen Johnson, and just having an incredible secondary that can give that front four the opportunity to make more plays. So just something I had noticed. I wanted to kind of point that out. But the next thing I think we wanted to touch on are just kind of some of the scenarios that can play out, right? Obviously, the big name tied to the Bears right now is Ashton Genty, and kind of what sort of things will need to happen in order for him to end up with the Bears. So there's three scenarios, right? So we're either going to stay put, we're going to trade up, or we're going to trade back. We're not going to get Genty by trading back, obviously. He's either going to, out of luck, fall to us at 10, or we are going to, and I say we, the front office for the Bears are going to have to make some sort of move to give up capital, move forward in the draft, and take him ahead of teams like the Jaguars, teams like the Raiders, that had that positional need as well. So we had kind of touched on some of this prior to going live, I should say. What are your guys' general feelings on trading up and giving up capital? So, like, if we love Genty, how much are you guys willing to give up to move up 5 spots, say? And I talked about this with Wargo and Tom before going live. In my opinion, at a bare minimum, we're looking at giving up, obviously, the 10th overall pick this year. We have 39 and 41. We're most likely going to have to give up one of those. And then next year, most likely a second, third round, maybe a combination of the two. And then possibly something in 2027 as well. That's the type of haul that realistically you're going to have to give up to move up 5 spots and get a guy like that. So would you guys be comfortable with giving up that kind of capital with where we're at organizationally right now?
No.
I'm not sure.
My knee jerks no.
I mean, I some of the scouts and talking heads on TV have distinguished Genty's ability as above and beyond anybody else in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm not sure if I believe that completely. And with the durability of running backs in the league, you're going to get 6 or 7 years. If we can get a big bruising type back, later in the draft, I think that we're giving up a lot to move up a little bit to get Genty. Like, I would be fine with Caleb Johnson, Iowa guy, big dude, runs, vertical, gets upfield, hits guys, and wears people down. And I think that fits into Ben Johnson's offense with that thunder lightning approach. So frankly, I don't think I would like that move. But if they did it, I'd probably be excited.
Yeah.
Fair.
Tom, Wargo, what do you guys think? Do you have any, strong feelings either way?
I think when you look at the top 10 picks here, a lot of them are kind of set in stone. Like, you got Cam Ward, you got Travis Hunter, you got Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, all those guys are going to go before the real Jacksonville and the Raiders. Those are the two that we're looking at. But I think the Raiders are blowing smoke, dude. They just signed Raheem Mostert. They had McCormick that they, what? Did I say his name wrong?
No, you said it right. It's just I don't see him being anything that would prevent them from still continuing to pursue Genty.
They have didn't they just sign what's his name? It is McCormick. Didn't they just sign him for a pretty good penny?
I honestly don't know who.
And then they also have
Sincere McCormick.
Yeah. So I guess
I sincerely do not know who that is.
He played well last year. He's the rookie. He's a rookie.
Another thing about G&T.
Who? G&T?
Yeah, who's that?
G&T.
I can go for a GNC right now.
How do you say it?
Just Genty.
Genty. Another thing about Genty is how much was he catching the ball out of the backfield? In
not a lot last year, but you look at prior years, a lot. He was good.
Like a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, he's got the best of both, right? I'm not sure G&T has.
Look up his stats, buddy.
Not sure G&T has that dynamic ability out of the backfield. Obviously, he is a gifted runner.
Maybe not last year because all they had to do was run. But look up his past stats, and he has receiving yards. So
stat wise, in 2023, his PFF grade is identical in 2023 and 2024, 94.9 overall. Obviously, 25, close to 2,600 yards this year. Just barely gets edged out for Heisman to Travis Hunter. But last year had 44 catches on 48 targets. This year was 33 catches on 38 targets. So it could be just a result of the system he was in college. It's just.
44, 48 is pretty damn good. I mean, he can catch the ball.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what it tells me is that, just based on what I'm seeing here, I think that he's shown enough. It's not necessarily a question mark. It's just something that maybe we haven't seen a ton of yet. So,
that is going back to trading up.
Mm-hmm.
Ashton Genty is the reason we would trade up. I don't think that there's another what?
We're never going to get his name right.
Asshole Genty.
It's like saying Louisville to someone who's from Louisville. You're never going to get it right.
The reason we would trade up is Ashton Genty. So, I don't feel comfortable moving up and getting him. I would love if he falls to us, we're absolutely getting him. But you also have a guy, Mason Graham, the guy from Michigan, the edge rusher. Is that Mason Graham? Yeah.
It's more of an interior guy, but yeah.
Yeah, but if he falls to us, that would be great. I think we'd get him. There's the Wimbu guy, the offensive line. If he fell to us, that would be great.
You're talking about the guy from Missouri?
Yeah. There's a lot of these guys that, if they did fall to us, we could pick them because we have that option. We were talking about earlier, Luke. We have shored up a lot of our holes.
Mm-hmm.
And our needs are less. We can kind of go and get best player available like we're talking about. But, those guys are elite players, and we need more of those elite guys on our team. I'm opposed to going up and getting Ashton Genty, but these other guys that could fall back to 10 are elite. But
I'm right there with you, Tom. I mean, I see quite a bit of value within the top 15, and we've got enough holes on our team on both sides of the ball where I think a lot of these guys that get drafted high are needs that or holes that we need filled. So. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't like the idea of trading up and giving up a whole lot because I feel like
I think someone elite will fall to us, and if it's Ascendenti, great. But if it's not, now I kind of want
if it's an edge, if it's a
lineman.
No,
I think before we move on to like the next scenario, I'm in agreement with you guys. I don't love the idea of us trading up to get him for a couple of reasons. One being the depth at that position. This is of all the position groups, this is a deep running back draft. There are guys. Jesse went full homer throughout Caleb Johnson. I don't necessarily hate it. It's just, of course, that's what you would say, being a Hawkeye alum himself. But there are a ton of guys that are going to be up for grabs in that 39 to 41 range that we can look at, whether it be Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, Dylan Sampson, those, and then there's guys even deeper than that.
A lot of good guys.
So those are guys that, I don't want to see us overextend ourselves and give up capital to get a position that isn't highly valued at this point in time in the grand scheme of things within the NFL. Like, running back is just not the position to overextend yourself on. At least, and that can all change. Like, the Lions just did it with Gibbs a couple years ago, and people were like, whoa, too high. And then the year after, the Lions are like, whoa, we were right and you're all stupid, right? Yeah. So, there are exceptions to the rule. It's just I'm thinking about it from the perspective of I'm the person who's always saying, should we trade back? I like trading back. I love doing it with every scenario. Thought about trading back last year to get Jane Daniels. Everybody laughed at me. But, just saying. So, anyways.
We got that on tape?
Yeah, go back and rewatch the draft episode from last year.
I believe you.
And everybody can, anoint me a genius. And I will happily accept. But again, let's move on from the trade up scenario, right? So let's say Bears don't trade up. We stay put at 10. I think that.
What do you think falls to that?
So
realistically,
I think a big factor in this, and this is just kind of like an aside. I don't know where your guys' heads are at because we didn't touch on any of this in the prep. I think a big factor that will play into who falls to us at that 10 spot is going to be, where does Shedeur go? So obviously there's been a lot of talk about him in New York, the Giants.
What about the Saints?
And the Saints, who I believe are at 9, right in front of us.
That would leave someone good.
The more kind of off the wall, not that Shedeur going in the top 10 would be off the wall, but the more kind of guys that are making kind of late pushes in terms of who might go early.
Like Minnesota last year.
That plays, yeah, absolutely. That plays into, better options falling to the Bears at 10. So, do you guys see Shedeur going top 10? What are your opinions? I've got a little bet with Trace on if Shedeur goes top 10 versus if he falls outside of the top 10. What do you guys think? Do you think he's going to go early?
Second round, dog.
Second round.
Okay. Second round's crazy. I've got a similar bet, but with Travis Hunter, whether or not he'll go first overall. I mean, there's a lot of draft propaganda, of course. Like, there's all the stuff about Caleb Williams, but there's an anonymous coach that said Shedeur Sanders gave the worst interview that he's ever had by a quarterback, which I could totally see.
Number one's gonna be Cam Ward, dog.
That was I bet that it would not be Travis Hunter. That's 1 overall. He's a CU Buffs fan, so he was just like, "You're an idiot. It's gonna be Travis."
I'm pretty sure Cam Ward's a shoo-in right now as number 1.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as Shedeur goes, I can't see him going early. I mean, that's kind of extreme, in my opinion. But
yeah, well, again, I just wanted to throw that out there, just because I do think that could play into, a guy like, the best case scenario, a guy like Genty falling to 10. But if it's not Genty, then a guy like, Tyler Warren, Mason Graham, if Will Campbell falls, like that's a guy that he's played tackle his whole career at LSU, but is his tangibles, his like size and fit, like maybe project him to be more of an interior guard type player in the NFL. It's just that there's the potential for a guy like that slipping a little bit if you see a run at quarterback, and by run I just mean Shedeur somehow slipping into the top 10. I think that there's a lot of options, and I think that's a huge theme with the Bears this year is given what they've done in free agency, given the guys that they already have on the roster in very important positions, quarterback, tackles, cornerback, edge rusher, it gives them some flexibility to really lean into who do we think's the best player at this spot.
I feel like we've got to also put a lot of weight on some of the later picks as well, where like with the Karan Amagaji and some of this shit there, where it's like, is that a Pulls pick, or like Jesse said as well, with Ben Johnson having a lot of say in what picks are made where. I think that that third round, fourth round pick are going to be interesting for me. I mean, obviously situationally dependent on what goes earlier, but I think there's going to be some value for us to be had there.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of a trade back because of where I've seen a lot of running backs going in mocks is at 39 to 41. If we can get another pick in between
sure
41 and our next pick after 41 would be 72. I think that there whether it be Judkins, whether it be Caleb Johnson, whether it be Sampson from Tennessee, I think all of those guys might be available in that range. Now, there's a chance there could be a run, and sometimes when you see one team say, hey, I'm going to grab a running back, other teams are like, shit. The run's starting, and you start to see them go in bunches, right? Yeah. So I like the idea of potentially moving back a few spots.
Spend it this year, though.
Yes, I think I'm on the same page as you, but moving back a few spots to get picks in the top 100 this year, which I think is what you're saying, Ward. Not necessarily looking to acquire picks for 2026 draft or 2027, but trying to increase our overall number of picks within the top 100. Because right now we've got 4 picks inside the top 100. If we can increase that to 5 or 6, I really like the idea of doing so because of some of the depth at running back, and then building on depth within positions that we've already kind of filled the immediate need for, whether that be offensive or defensive line. Because some of those replacements, Thuney, great player, but he could be at the end of his leash, right, or at the end of his peak. Grady Jarrett's another example. Typically, you don't see guys who are still have a lot left in their tank just being released by their previous team, right? Like that's just like if the Atlanta Falcons still thought Grady Jarrett had a lot to give,
right?
They may have paid him, they may not have let him walk. So, and we paid him $43.5 million over 3 years. And I believe he's just hit 30 mark. He might be 31. That's kind of risky. So like you could be the need to fill in with some depth behind him, and same thing applying to the offensive line, I think could be a smart move, which Tom had already touched on. I think that there's also some great depth at the offensive and defensive line positions in this draft as well. So thoughts on trading back. What do you guys think of that?
I saw on ESPN today. Trade back 14 with the Colts. Yep. Get like Kelvin Jenkins.
Yep.
From Texas.
Kelvin Banks.
Oh, Banks.
Kelvin Jenkins. I'm Jenkins. All right.
Yeah. From Texas, big guy. He'd be cool. That'd be cool. Like if we do something like that, and I don't know what the Colts would give up. I don't know. Like I'm not great with trades. Like what do you guys think?
So in this scenario, Colts are currently at 14. They'd be
Oh, so
moving up. We'd be moving back 4 spots. They'd be moving up. So in my mind, obviously we are, they're moving up to the 10 spot. The Colts, we'd get their 14. I'm trying to see what
else they have.
Second. So Colts, we'd probably get their 45th pick for this year, and then maybe like a second rounder next year.
Like if we get the 39, 41, 45, we could get that offensive line if we get Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go and get a running back that we've talked about. Get a safety or a cornerback, whatever, and then the last one, tight end. Who knows? Like, it'd be.
I think two interesting positions are two that you just mentioned, Tom. Tackle and tight end. I think most people would agree with me in saying that Cole Kmet's he's someone we're happy to have, but he's not someone that's like got a position locked up, right? Like he's a good player, but if Tyler Warren's available at 10, we better be thinking long and hard about taking another tight end there.
Isn't there another guy from Michigan? Who's that guy?
Yeah, Blake Loveland, I think. Colston Loveland.
Yeah, okay.
So, I'd seen something about them potentially taking Loveland at 10 if Warren's not there. Didn't love that. Taking the second best tight end in a draft at 10 just feels like
I feel like that happens. Something's got to be available that's better than that.
Right. But I wanted to touch on tight end because of Ben Johnson's scheme. Last year, like 2 tight end sets, big jumbo sets where like he's even got an extra tackle in the game as an eligible receiver, but essentially he's just there to block. Obviously he does a lot of wild stuff in terms of like creativity with his play calling, but generally when he would bring in an extra tackle, it was to just completely outnumber the defensive line and get numbers up front in order to run the ball well. So if that, we in theory have our starting 5 at O-line right now with Jones, Thuney, Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and
Preston. Right. Darnell Wright.
Yeah, Darnell Wright. But if we can get another young guy who, again, if Thuney's not going to be re-signed, he's the future at that position, but can serve this year as kind of like a swing tackle that we're bringing in.
We need to start building the program. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I like that. And I think that is something that can be
developed, guys.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time.
What a wild
Billy does a great job. And look
for our team.
Billy has backup on backup on backup. So they just keep getting. And they got guys just all over the place. It's because they draft well, and then they come in and do,
and they develop them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and the reason I'm such a big proponent of trading back and acquiring more is you give yourself more opportunities to, like, the more shots you've got at the dartboard, the better chance you have of hitting on something.
This year, I'm okay with that. Like, you're saying the top 100, that they are quality. Like, after the first 15 picks, the quality is the same, basically. It's like, it's good tier dudes.
I mean, I'm not an expert. I can't say with any certainty, like, the top 100 this year in comparison to the last 5, like, this is hands down the best, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just going off of the mocks that I've done, what I've read about the guys that I'm taking in those mocks. I think that there are guys that if we can increase the number of picks, and I was saying the same shit last year. So for the person, and when I say person, I mean, if you are out there and for some reason you have decided to dedicate some time to listening to us talk, God bless you, right? But you're probably saying to yourself, Luke's saying the same thing he said last year. Yes, I am, because that's my philosophy. Get as many picks inside the top 100. Give yourself as many opportunities as you can to find guys who can be developed. Because the reality of it is the later you go in the draft, the likelihood of you finding a guy that is, a hidden gem, it's just so small. it can happen, absolutely. But if you can get guys who are, consensus All-Americans for 3 out of their 4 years in college, or they were a top 5 recruit coming out of high school, and like those are guys that, if put into the correct system, really have an increased chance of unlocking the potential that people have already seen, right? Like maybe they struggled in college, but at one point someone said, this person's a top recruit. This person's an all conference in Big Ten or SEC. Get more of those guys and try to develop them. Trying to draft an undersized cornerback out of Toledo in the 7th round, like if it pans out, it pans out. That's great, but it's just so much less likely that you're going to hit.
I'm looking at your mock drafts here, boys. You guys got a lot of cornerbacks going.
Yeah, so I had touched on that earlier. Just in some of the more recent mocks that I had done, I like some of the cornerbacks that are there at certain spots. Like it at 10, for example, like you had pointed out, Tom. In one mock where I had actually traded back to 20 from 10.
Yes, I like.
I picked up in that mock, I picked up the 51st overall pick and a 2nd round pick for next year. By giving up the 10th pick, you get Will Johnson, who next to Jahdae Barron is the number 1 cornerback in this draft.
This is my favorite one. Your trade back, I like it the most. With Xavier Watson, Landon Jackson, in addition to still getting Will Johnson, that's crazy. So
yeah, and then you get in that mock, I have them getting Caleb Johnson at 51. So like you still address the running back position, you get another edge defender, you fill in at safety, you get a guy who can come in after Byard is left, become the next guy up. And then in addition to that, you're getting either the 1st or 2nd best cornerback in the draft to put next to already an all-pro cornerback that we have. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was cooking on that one.
Yeah,
I like that one a lot.
The more I look at it, the more I'm like, dang.
And
we haven't really added to the safety or the defensive front backfield this year in free agency.
No,
it's all line related. So I can see that.
And we did extend Kyler Gordon, which I love to see. I love Kyler. I think he is.
Brisker still out there?
Brisker is going to be healthy next year. And, hopefully he can stay healthy. And
he's 1 concussion away.
He really is. And that's why safety is kind of an appealing, potential draft pick for me personally, is because Byard played pretty well last year, but he's getting older. And then obviously Brisker's been dealing with a lot of injuries up to this point in his tenure with the Bears. So,
why didn't you tell me I was sitting in the dark, dude?
Jesse was dark, fine. So.
But yeah, so I mean, a lot of scenarios to play out.
Did you see you got bottom 10% and bottom 30% of your 2nd and 3rd ones that you posted?
Yeah, no, and I, of the 3 mocks that I had posted in our Google Doc,
first one's good.
Overall draft grade, it likes the stay put mock the best.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at your mock here, Wargo, that you had posted. It likes yours the best. And in yours, obviously, you didn't make any moves. You take Barron at 10. Right. James Pierce, who, like, in terms of, like, raw pass rush ability, might be the best in the draft. I mean, I think he kind of had some character stuff that came up after the season. Obviously, it seems to be a theme at Tennessee. They don't like high character guys, with Nico Amaliva heading to UCLA in an all-time just what the hell are you doing move. I want more money, but I'm going to take less. Doesn't make any sense.
It's his dad, right? That was his dad?
Yeah, that was just baffling. But yeah, no, I mean, this is, I think, again, the common theme, and I sound like a broken record, is I like that they have the ability to remain flexible and go with where the draft takes them. There are certain years where it's like, hey, we've got to get this guy at this pick. and we have to be willing to give up capital to get up there and get him because it's a position that you just have to address. Those positions are not our top priority right now. Again, QB, tackle, edge defender, cornerback, like those are the big boys, right? So like if you've got those ones squared away and taken care of, you've got options. You can really take that best available player approach. So
I'm excited to who we can get here.
I am too.
My prediction for tomorrow, after just listening for the last 20 minutes and not saying anything, I don't think we're going to trade any of the picks that we currently have. You guys, just listening to you guys, I really like the idea of taking a tight end at 10. Mm-hmm. If Warren's there, I think that would be.
I would love that.
Would be awesome.
I think that's my favorite.
And I think their goal, they need with those first 3 picks, they need to get 3 guys that they can get on the field game 1 starters. Running back,
which Warren would be. Warren would be a dead like he, you know.
I would love to get one of the Ohio State running backs at 39 or 41.
Sorry, I'm dumb. We did let Everett walk, right? Test the market, or is he just out? He was on a 1 year.
Gerald Everett.
No,
he's out. Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
I could also see us trading some draft capital from next year to get a later pick. One of those other top 100 picks. I don't know if that's going to be late in the first round. If there's somebody that we like that's still out there and they think that he's about to go.
So looking in terms of capital that we have to give up, it's not like we've got a stockpile, but we're not missing any pick. Like oftentimes, like if you've seen like the Rams in the last few years, like they had traded away all their fucking picks, so like they didn't have that availability.
6 or 7.
Well, it's not like we have excess, but I mean we've got first, second, third, fifth, sixth, and seventh round picks next year. 2027, we've got first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh available. So those are there. It's just not, and it's not that it has never occurred. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but you don't see super often teams just saying, I just want future picks. Like it's not as common as like an NBA trade where like you do see teams being like, I want 3 futures, right? Like a lot of times teams are like, I need your pick this year, and then I'm willing to talk about the picks you're going to give me for next year. But to Jesse's point, 39 and 41 are like interchangeable, right? Like those 2 are right there. So if they say like, we're willing to just do away with one of those in addition to a second or third next year, absolutely. I could see them being willing to. I think the idea of trading back up into the first round, if there's a guy there, that is an interesting.
That's what you're saying?
Sort of scenario that I hadn't kind of considered to this point.
Yeah, I mean, just using draft capital from next year to pick up another top 100 pick. Ideally, you're getting a guy that you really, really want. That's the only reason you would really do that. But, that would make the night a little bit more exciting, right? It's something that's kind of unexpected.
Get 2 good guys.
Something that isn't really on anybody's radar. You know what I mean? Like if they are in this win now mentality, why not give up a little bit of future capital to make your team better today? And I think that's the exact position we're in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Anybody else have any scenarios that they could see potentially playing out that we haven't talked about yet?
I hadn't thought much about trading back and getting capital in next year's draft, just being that we do have, like you said, ample picks. But kind of with what we're looking at in terms of, like we were saying, like relative strength of draft class, like I too am not an expert, Luke, but it feels like this one's a little slim. And it might just be like the top 10 are less exciting than the top 10 were previously, and there's still a lot of value in the next 90. But I don't necessarily hate that idea. I would be a little uneasy if we traded back and did something crazy to give up capital this year. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm always down for a little shake up. Variety's the spice of life. So just getting a little.
I don't want to give up any capital this year. I want to give up future capital to win now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this is the draft class to do it though?
I think.
What's that?
Jesse,
do you think this is the class to do it? The draft class?
Well, I think if there's a guy, I don't know enough about the class. I don't know enough about the depth of the class, but I'm trusting in the front office and Ben Johnson in particular.
One thing that's
come
could
from Detroit, an organization that literally went from 2 wins or whatever to 9 to 15 in like 3 years.
Going with something that you had mentioned earlier that this is purely hypothetical. I haven't seen this anywhere, so this is a Chi-Town exclusive for you. All built off what Jesse has brought to the podcast today is, say, for example, the Bears don't love with what they've seen from Montez Sweat. You could look at potentially trading that contract along with a second or third next year to a team that needs to address the edge position, and that type of thing. That is something is so cold in terms of like I haven't heard anything hinted at in relation to Montez Sweat. Like
I've heard that people don't love him, and I'm one of those people.
and I'm in agreement with what Jesse brought up earlier. Like he hasn't necessarily lived up to that contract that they had dished out to this point. Is there time for him to redeem himself? Absolutely. But just trying to think of off the wall crazy scenarios, that is something that as opposed to a team being like, you know what, I'm going to give you a top 100 this year if you give me a second and a third next year. It would be more likely for a team to say, give me a second next year and a guy like Sweat, who hasn't hit that 30 mark yet, still got some tread on the tires, hasn't necessarily blown people's minds in Chicago. Looking at pairing a pick with a player like that. DJ Moore is a guy that comes to mind for me. I'm about sick of this pissy attitude. And if someone were to be like, we like DJ, I'd be like, take him. I don't give a shit. Give me a 7th round pick 4 years from now.
Swift.
Wow.
Swift is certainly
DJ, if you're listening, I want to see some positive vibes this year.
You're out
Last year was piss poor.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, you're getting paid millions of dollars.
I think it would be sick if we got McMillan. He's raw.
DJ Moore just had a kid. I think he's gonna be in high spirits. You know what I'm saying?
He had a kid last year.
The most recent mock.
I'm sorry, DJ. I love you, bud, but just come on. Like
the most recent mock draft posted to PFF by Mason Cameron on April 7th has the Bears trading the 10th pick to the Cleveland Browns, so trading up to the number 2 pick
to get Carter. Yeah, I've seen that. We'd be giving up a lot. We'd be giving up
39, the 148, and the first round pick next year.
Yeah,
I think the likelihood of us staying put is high, or trading back. That's my theory.
Ryan Poles has shown that he isn't afraid to do some wild shit. So, like, him trading up wouldn't blow my mind. It's just, again, you're trading up to get a guy at a position where there's a lot of other guys that could fill that need and be serviceable in that same draft. It just feels...
I would be more comfortable trading up like 1 or 2 spots. Say we get to pick 7 or 8, and there's a guy that we really want there that's not...
Like Carter? Abdul Carter still on the board?
No. Like, that's not Genty. Like, I would be maybe okay with that just because it's not – I don't think we give up that much.
To be honest with you, Tom, the difference between moving up, let's say 2 spots and 5, because it most likely we're moving up a minimum of 4 spots to get Genty. Yeah. Most likely 5 or 6 spots. The difference between what you're going to give up in the 4, 5, 6 spot versus 2, 3 spot, it's not gonna like you're gonna be giving up a similar amount. Like it depends on the negotiation skills of the team and the GM your GM is negotiating with. Like who's like Howie Roseman, I think is the GM for the Eagles. He like I've heard podcasts about like he's like right now he's like the MJ of GMs. Like he is known for like mind fucking people and being like like making people think that they're getting a good deal, and then the next thing you know, he's got 4 more Georgia defensive linemen. And it's like, what did we do? Like, why did we do that? It doesn't make any sense.
He did that to polls 2 years ago.
Right. So like you don't oftentimes think of that.
You don't want Carter.
In terms of
he's got
like a vertebrae or something, right? Like a back, something.
I'd be like,
I don't know.
Shut your mouth. Shut your witchery.
But like Poles he's been kind of a roller coaster, but he hasn't completely gone full pace yet, right? So like, I'm still in the Poles camp, but like, don't hit me with another Amagachi this year. Like, let's keep it on the rails. Like, I get you saw something, but like,
oh God, what if we get something?
Do not. If you go Ivy League in the top 4 rounds this year, I'm gonna be making phone calls.
Just get
you don't want that.
Yeah, like you said earlier, let's get some Georgia Bulldogs, LSU Tigers. Let's get these guys in here. Florida.
Yeah.
Penn
Florida.
State, A&M.
Texas.
Florida.
Iowa.
Go. Iowa, man.
Well, unless anybody has anything else, I think we are about at the conclusion of the 2025 draft preview for Chi-Town Lowdown. Any closing notes for anybody, or can I bring us home?
Yeah, I'm gonna go play Oblivion Remastered.
Did you get it?
Oh yeah,
I'm playing it as well.
Okay, I need to get it.
Yeah,
$50.
It's on the Game Pass, so it's free.
Wow.
You pay for the Game Pass.
I've got a PlayStation, so.
We'll probably be going out with another episode here. I would say in a week, maybe. I don't know, just to talk about
draft reactions. We like do weekend episodes. We could pop one in, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see what we can give you.
Absolutely, we will. The pods will obviously. We've been on a little bit of a break, but we as the off season progresses and we get a little bit closer to starting next year, obviously we'll start to pick back up on these and definitely have a draft recap pod coming for everybody. So as always, again, talking to the one person who sees this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your moms, tell your dads, cousins, aunts, whatever it is.
We know football. All right, so listen.
Comment your picks.
We might not know football. We like to talk about it. So, and we like to talk with others about it. So don't be afraid to drop a comment or leave us a mention on Twitter or X. We'd be happy to interact. So thank you again, and we will see you guys soon. Bear down.
Bear down.